Hello, everybody, and welcome to Atheist Sunday School, your one-stop shop for everything Atheist Sunday and school. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today, we are covering Psalms 119 through 120.
Yeah,
Perfect.
we did it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
The reason that we're doing two Psalms today is because, holy ass, this is a long psalm.
It is the longest psalm in the Bible, in fact, 119.
Yep, 119. It's an acrostic poem.
Yes, it is, which means every stanza is separated by, or it's indicated by a letter of the Hebrew alphabet.
Yeah, it's like one of those kids' books that you see where it's like, A is for apple. It's red and shiny. B is for barracuda. Stay away from those. You know?
I was really waiting for that to rhyme.
No, I'm not going to. None of this is going to rhyme. We're not talking about Dr. Seuss here. We're talking about like some cheap knockoff, right? Okay. Well, I have the King James Version of the Bible.
I have the English Standard Version.
We also have the Robert Alter translation and commentary.
Speaking of which, I should get that out. We just recorded the Deuteronomistic History Review.
Yeah, we were referencing, well, very briefly.
Unedited
Alter.
is 3.5 hours. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's too long.
I was just in the background listening to everything. I didn't feel the need to say anything 99.9% of the time, whatever. But hey, they did a great job. It's a very long effort. Hopefully you guys enjoy that video when it comes out.
Hopefully you do, because we worked real hard on it.
Yeah, and it took forever.
It did. It really did.
Both the amount of time between us completing Second Kings to now and actually recording it.
Yes.
Both took forever. So we also have the Holy Scriptures according to some Jews.
And we also have the new King James Version of the Bible.
And we have this.
Behold.
This. We are not sponsored, but we would like to be.
We also have the Origins of Biblical Monotheism from Marcus Smith.
And we have the Oxford Companion to the Bible.
Of course we do. And Psalms Old and New.
As well as Old Testament Survey.
Yeah, we have a whole bunch of stuff here.
Yep.
Did I say Erdmans? Because we have Erdmans.
Well, we have Erdmans.
Yes, we do.
Yep. And we have the KJV, which is the only important book on the table because it's what you're going to be hearing for like 90% of today's broadcast.
Yeah. Yeah, you will be.
I feel like Ruben needs that shirt as well. But hey, you guys are both wearing our Milwaukee Atheist t-shirt. Super limited quantity. Gotta ask for it.
Yeah, we should get an According to Some Jews t-shirt.
Because, I mean, we are some Jews.
Oh, yeah, it's like a double entendre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Amazing.
guess you guys are a group, so you're some Jews.
Yeah.
Done. Yeah.
Some Jews.
Or we could spell it some, S-U-M, so some Jews.
Why would
some of two Jews.
Yeah, I mean, that is...
1 plus 1.
Really bad.
the sum.
It's really bad.
Okay.
Are we still
That's
in that
some
frame?
Common Core
We were
type
looking
shit
over
right
Common
there,
Core
Lawrence.
and how poorly
Oh, man.
it describes actual mathematics. Let's try to get out of that frame of mind.
Yeah.
All right, how about we get started with the readings today, shall we?
Yeah, Psalm 119. Aleph. Acrostic poem starts with the letter Aleph. Blessed are the undefiled in the way, who walk in the law of the Lord. Blessed are they that keep his testimonies, and that seek him with the whole heart. They also do no iniquity. They walk in his ways. Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently. Oh, that my ways were directed to keep thy statutes. Then shall I not be ashamed when I have respect unto all thy commandments. I will praise thee with uprightness of heart when I shall have learned thy righteous judgments. I will keep thy statutes. Oh, forsake me not utterly.
So, obviously, I think it's obvious, the theme of this poem is Torah. So, in fact, there's a lot of interesting things here, specifically about this psalm in relation to the Torah. So, the central theme of Psalm 119 is the Torah. In all, 8 synonyms for law are used in the psalm, namely Torah, Debar, which is word, Mishpatim, which is ordinances, Edut, which is decrees, Pekudim, precepts, Hukim, statutes, Miswa, commandments, and Imra, promise, with 2 exceptions, verses 90 and 122. Each of the 176 lines contain one of the synonyms for law.
All right.
Yeah, quite a lot of stuff.
It does seem very legalistic.
Yeah.
Next letter. Beth. Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed thereto according to thy word. With my whole heart have I sought these. Oh, let me not wander from thy commandments. Thy word have I hid in mine heart, that I might not sin against thee. Blessed art thou, O Lord. Teach me thy statutes. With my lips have I declared all the judgments of thy mouth. I have rejoiced in the way of thy testimonies as much as in all riches. I will meditate in thy precepts, and have respect unto thy ways. I will delight myself in thy statutes. I will not forget thy word.
So this stanza begins with a question, the only stanza to do so. How can a young man keep his way pure? The Hebrew word na'ar can refer to anyone up to about the age of 40. Interestingly enough, but we must remember that the ancient Near East was full of senior-dominated cultures where the elders were the most honored, looked up to, and who made the rules. Calling someone young, who could be up to 40 years of age, reflects the perspective of a senior person. Notice that wisdom literature is often addressed to the young, which might give you a hint at exactly how old the author is. I mean, he's going to talk about some of his past transgressions and how he's much better now, meaning he probably has some life experience. Probably an older gentleman.
Probably. Gimel. Third letter. Deal bountifully with thy servant, that I may live and keep thy word. Open thou mine eyes, that I may behold wondrous things out of thy law. I am a stranger in the earth. Hide not thy commandments from me. My soul breaketh for the longing that it hath unto thy judgments at all times. Thou hast rebuked the proud that are cursed, which do err from thy commandments. Remove from me reproach and contempt, for I have kept thy testimonies. Princes also did sit and speak against me, but thy servant did meditate in thy statutes. Thy testimonies also are my delight and my counselors.
Yeah, so my constant counselors, the literal sense of the Hebrew is the men of my counsel.
Well, that's interesting. I also noticed that they brought up princes here, which are classical enemies of the Lord, as you know, through the book of Enoch.
Yeah, but it says
others.
that even when princes sat to scheme against me.
Yeah.
So yeah, they are in fact the enemies here.
Yep. It's all these royal people. Unless it's like a royal psalm praising a king, royalty is bad. Right?
Well, I mean, it's not that royalty is bad.
It's that royal people are bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the princes. The kings are cool.
Daleth. My soul cleaveth unto the dust. Quicken thou me according to thy word. I have declared my ways, and thou heardest me. Teach me thy statutes. Make me to understand the way of thy precepts. So shall I talk of thy wondrous works. My soul melteth for heaviness. Strengthen thou me according unto thy word. Remove from me the way of lying, and grant me thy law graciously. I have chosen the way of truth. Thy judgments have I laid before me. I have stuck unto thy testimonies. O Lord, put me not to shame. I will run the way of thy commandments when thou shalt enlarge my heart. Now, for the way of truth, I assume that they're not referring to Parmenides' way of truth.
I have no idea. But interestingly here, he speaks of running in the way of God's commandments rather than walking, the usual verb for such an activity. This may suggest energetic and enthusiastic following of God's word. This is one of those verses that suggests we are dealing with an enthusiastic young person. I wouldn't really say young person, but he is definitely urging people to be enthusiastic.
Right, and also there's other strange verbs in here as well, such as with my soul melteth, right? It's very strange to see those two things associated because the soul is normally the ruach, which is the breath, right? It is a very air-based substance, and for something to melt...
Well, I mean, we're definitely here talking about a more metaphorical melting, and it's, my soul melts is kind of like when we say our heart melts or something.
I don't know if I've ever said that.
I'm pretty sure I've said it.
Have you?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
When?
I don't fucking remember, but I'm pretty sure I've said it. But I mean, as
discussion. Oh my God.
As you noted, there are a lot of weird verbs here. For example, Alter notes that verse 32, his translation is, "You make my heart capacious." The poet clearly refers here to the biblical notion of the heart as the seat of understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. And the KJV says, "Enlarge my heart."
Enlarge, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not good for you if you look into any historical cases of people with medical
Enlarged
abnormalities
hearts,
and enlarged hearts. They've had a hard life,
Yeah, but that's why we shouldn't be taking it literally.
But I mean,
I don't know.
But enlarging the heart as a metaphor, at least, is something that is common still to our culture.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
But the soul melting is usually like, among people who believe in souls, like a pretty terrible thing. And it says, "My soul melteth for heaviness, strengthen thou me according unto thy word," which is like, it doesn't sound like the end of the world, right?
What verse is that specifically?
Verse 28, right?
Verse 28, "My being dissolves in anguish. Sustain me as befits your word." So I think the general theme of this stanza would be then that he's basically not good enough and he's asking for God's help again. But one of the things here, and I actually wanted to point this out, the poet describes his own circumstances as a situation of need, while the poet also expresses his feelings about his enemies in strong language. So all of the stuff that God is going to fulfill for this guy is stuff that he needs to be fulfilled. Like, let's see, there's mentions of worry, anxiety, his depression, distress. He says that he will not be put to shame, stuff like that. So it's a covering of needs.
Right. What is the term that's used? Yours says, "My being dissolves."
Yes, dissolves.
Does he say the Hebrew?
He does not.
That would be interesting because one would assume there's a different term besides soul or spirit that they're using there, right? If it's my being. Anyways. Ha. Next
stanza.
verse. Yeah. It's ha. Teach me, O Lord, the way of thy statutes, and I shall keep it unto the end.
So this one's actually a weird one here. So the translation that Alter has is without fail, and the Hebrew word ekev has puzzled interpreters. As a noun, it means heal. As a subordinate conjunction, it means because or in consequence, probably because the heel is an image of following after something. The word appears to serve here as an adverb, so it might have the sense of acting consequently or without fail. Yeah, so to the end is, I think that was from the Septuagint translation.
What spelling of heal?
H-E-E-L.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Give me understanding, and I shall keep thy law. Yea, I shall observe it with my whole heart. Make me to go in the path of thy commandments, for therein do I delight. Incline my heart unto thy testimonies, and not to covetousness. Turn away mine eyes from beholding vanity, and quicken thou me in thy way. Establish thy word unto thy servant, who is devoted to thy fear. Turn away my reproach which I fear, for thy judgments are good. Behold! I have longed after thy precepts. Quicken me in thy righteousness.
So that was the end of the stanza?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So interestingly, Alter has a different translation for this, and it kind of falls in line more with the commentary from Edmonds. He says at the end there, "Look, I have desired your decrees. In your bounty give me life." And that kind of life-giving characteristic is, kind of plays off of the needs that I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm. And it's also definitely something that God does, that someone would be able to rely on him doing.
Yeah, definitely.
If they, accept the theology and so forth, right? Okay. Vow. Let thy mercies come also unto me, O Lord, even thy salvation according to thy word. So shall I have wherewith to answer him that reproacheth me, for I trust in thy word, and take not the word of truth utterly from out of my mouth, for I have hoped in thy judgments. So shall I keep thy law continually forever and ever. And I will walk at liberty, for I seek thy precepts. I will speak of thy testimonies also before kings, and will not be ashamed. And I will delight myself in thy commandments, which I have loved. My hands also will I lift up unto thy commandments, which I have loved, and I will meditate in thy statutes.
Yes, obviously the lifting up of the hands, or in Alter's translation, the palms, is a gesture of prayer. I don't really have much to say on this one, honestly. Hydrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a little bit in my throat.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was not fun. Zion. Remember the word unto thy servant, upon which thou hast caused me to hope. This is my comfort in my affliction, for thy word hath quickened me. The proud have had me greatly in derision, yet have I not declined from thy law. I remembered thy judgments of old, O Lord, and have comforted myself. Horror hath taken hold upon me because of the wicked that forsake thy law. Thy statutes have been my songs in the house of my pilgrimage. I have remembered thy name, O Lord, in the night, and have kept thy law. This I had because I kept thy precepts.
So, the reference to a house in verse 54 could be taken as a reference to the temple, and Tyrion, he's a scholar, suggests that perhaps the psalmist is one of the sacred singers in the temple.
Okay.
Now, I'm not sure, but
It's
since he's talking
possible.
about pilgrimage,
I would think that it's someone who doesn't live in Jerusalem.
yeah, that's what I would think.
And who comes to Jerusalem for like festivals and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people would come to Jerusalem for the Passover.
Yeah, this is a very devout Jew, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Chaf. Thou art my portion, O Lord. I have said that I would keep thy words. I entreated thy favor with my whole heart. Be merciful unto me according to thy word. I thought on my ways and turned my feet unto thy testimonies. I made haste and delayed not to keep thy commandments. The bands of the wicked have robbed me, but I have not forgotten thy law. At midnight I will rise to give thanks unto thee because of thy righteous judgments. I am a companion of all them that fear thee, and of them that keep thy precepts. The earth, O Lord, is full of thy mercy. Teach me thy statutes.
So one of the things here that we should note is the personal relationship that the psalmist has with God. So his personal relationship with God is very important to the poet, I'm sure. He wishes to praise the Lord even 7 times a day, and he even thinks of him at night. He seeks the Lord with his whole heart. He honors the Lord. He knows that he belongs to God and calls upon him for help. He experiences God as righteous, merciful, and faithful. Yeah, the Lord made him, and the Lord is his refuge. For this reason, he prays unceasingly that the Lord will save him.
You know, a lot of people, like Muslims, for example, they do their prayers 5 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people that do something similar to that. 7 is a lot. I'll give him that. But I don't think it's earning him special brownie points.
Well, I think, okay, so at the very beginning of the psalm, actually, I think, oh no, it wasn't at the beginning. I guess it was just in my readings. So one of the themes that we are going to get into is the fact that the psalmist he's attacking the enemies, the people who don't follow the law, and there's a difference between those who are blameless and those who completely walk in the way. That's why he emphasizes being enthusiastic about it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, that does remind me, it was for the first one that I was going to reference here. Happy whose way is blameless. The first Hebrew word, ashrei, with an initial aleph, marks the beginning of what we call the long acrostic, an alphabetic acrostic in which each of the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet begins 8 lines of poetry. The result is the longest psalm in the collection. Perhaps this extravagant mnemonic was deemed appropriate because of the manifestly didactic nature of the poem. The edifying truth of unflagging loyalty to God's word was intended to be inculcated in those who recited the text inscribed in their memory. So there is a contrast between being just blameless and being like so overly enthusiastic about it. That's how you win the Lord's favor.
So you memorize the whole Bible.
Or at least parts of it. I don't know.
Now you got to do the whole thing, Lawrence.
That's quite a lot.
Tat. Thou hast dealt well with thy servant, O Lord, according unto thy word. Teach me good judgment and knowledge, for I have believed thy commandments. Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now have I kept thy word. Thou art good, and doest good. Teach me thy statutes. The proud have forged a lie against me, but I will keep thy precepts with my whole heart. Their heart is not as fat as grease, but I delight in thy law. It is good for me that I have been afflicted, that I might learn thy statutes. The law of thy mouth is better unto me than thousands of gold and silver.
So what were you going to say?
Jinx. Woo. So this person is an apostate.
Well, the thing is, he had transgressed in the past, and he acknowledges that.
Right.
So now he is... Now at this point in time, I'm sure he's right with the Lord. But in this psalm, he is acknowledging that, I guess. He's talking about that.
But it was an apostate.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's, one of the things we were talking about earlier in the show was that life experience that the psalmist probably had probably makes him an older person. Probably. I'm not saying 100% here. I have no idea.
Well, also, I mean, when you get really old, thousands of pieces of gold and silver can't do that much for you anymore.
Well, I mean, it's not just that, but it's definitely just the sweetness, I guess. This theme is going to come up later too, but the sweetness of the word, I suppose. So one of the things that I should probably note here is that the law plays a... So I'm not sure if I can show it or if it'll pop up. So there's this triangle, and it has the Lord, the enemies, and the righteous on each of the corners, and then the law in the middle, and the righteous and the enemies are separated, especially by the law. So I'm going to try to show this. So Chris, here we go. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's there. Triangle's there. Feel free to zoom in or something. So, not you, Chris, for the viewers. Triangle's right there. The law plays a primary role in this triangular relationship. It serves as a kind of buffer between the Lord and the just man, and the Lord and the enemies. In his love for the Lord, the just man focuses on the law. The Lord uses the law as an intermediary in his relationship with believers, and the law serves as an instrument of judgment and punishment for the enemies of the believer. This representation of the triangular relationship indicates that the Lord's relationship with people, divided here into the righteous and the wicked, is another important theme of Psalm 119.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just realized that I'm reading a 176 verse psalm, and you're reading a 7 verse psalm.
Yes. I'm helping.
Thanks, Anivia.
Yep. Yod. Thy hands have made me and fashioned me. Give me understanding that I may learn thy commandments. They that fear thee will be glad when they see me, because I have hoped in thy word. I know, O Lord, that thy judgments are right, and that thou in faithfulness hast afflicted me. Let, I pray thee, thy merciful kindness be for my comfort, according to thy word unto thy servant. Let thy tender mercies come unto me, that I may live, for thy law is my delight. Let the proud be ashamed, for they dealt
Sorry.
for they dealt perversely with me without a cause. But I will meditate in thy precepts.
So one of the things here, this is in Alter's translation. May the arrogant be shamed, for with the lies they distorted my name. And the note here on distorted my name, the Hebrew merely says distorted me, which does not work as an English idiom. I mean, I kind of get it.
Kinda.
Yeah.
They slandered.
Yeah, slandered pretty much.
Yeah. It could have said slandered. I guess there's probably a word.
There is probably.
Yeah. Okay. Let those that fear thee turn unto me, and those that have known thy testimonies. Let my heart be sound in thy statutes, that I be not ashamed.
So one of the things that we have to note is notice that one of the major themes of this wisdom psalm is the request for life. We talked about that a little bit earlier. The psalmist regularly petitions Yahweh for the gift of life, which is given through Yahweh's promise. It is clear that obedience to Torah is not an automatic trigger for life, but that life is given of Yahweh's own self in faithful commitment to Israel and to the psalmist. The theme of how to have and live a good life is a constant one in wisdom literature, and the subject of considerable debate. But yeah, that theme is going to pop up a lot, and that's why I was talking earlier about the needs that the psalmist has.
Kaf. My soul fainteth for thy salvation, but I hope in thy word. Mine eyes fail for thy word, saying, when wilt thou comfort me? For I am become like a bottle in the smoke, yet do I not forget thy statutes. How many are the days of thy servant? When wilt thou execute judgments on them that persecute me? The proud have digged pits for me, which are not after thy law. All thy commandments are faithful. They persecute me wrongfully. Help thou me. They had almost consumed me upon earth, but I forsook not thy precepts. Quicken me after thy loving kindness, so shall I keep the testimony of thy mouth.
So one of the things that was covered in this in verse 84, how many are the days of your servant? The logic is similar to that repeatedly invoked by Job. If my life is so brief, why does not God grant me justice before it is over? That, and of course, talking about the enemies, we have that theme a lot in the Psalms as well. And we also had that theme even more in First Enoch, for example. When will the end of the enemies come?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Lamed. Share the stream with all your friends and family.
Yes, please share the stream. Get more people in here.
Yeah.
And we love having people in the chat. We like it very much.
Yes. Lamed. Forever, O Lord, thy word is settled in heaven. Thy faithfulness is unto all generations. Thou hast established the earth, and it abideth. They continue this day according to thine ordinances, for all are thy servants. Unless thy law had been my delights, I should then have perished in mine affliction. I will never forget thy precepts, for with them thou hast quickened me. I am thine, save me, for I have sought thy precepts. The wicked have waited for me to destroy me, but I will consider thy testimonies. I have seen an end of all perfection, but thy commandment is exceeding broad.
I do have a couple things to note on that, actually. So the first thing is how it is always, the law will always be relevant. and he's talking about these changing times, but he keeps stressing how eternal the law is. So one of the comments that I found really interesting from Witherington was, there is no need today for the law prohibiting parking one's horse in front of the courthouse in Lexington, Kentucky, even though this is still the horse capital of America. That law is obsolete because the times have changed. The psalmist is simply saying that there is always a need and relevance for God's law in general and for our obedience.
You guys just think I'm Polish? That part of my genome's completely screwed. Sorry, I had to verify that.
Okay.
Your
They're like-
entire genome is screwed.
Yeah, no, I'm a mutant. It doesn't matter what my heritage was.
Here we go again. How about we continue with the
Yep.
reading?
Mem. Oh, how I love thy law. It is my meditation all the day. Thou through thy commandments hast made me wiser than mine enemies, for they are ever with me. I have more understanding than all my teachers, for thy testimonies are my meditation.
So it's interesting here that he's fairly humble throughout this whole thing.
And then,
Yeah, and then your command makes me wiser than my enemies. I have understood more than all my teachers. Now, we kind of get what he's saying because I think, that the true knowledge, right, is about, if we're talking about, gnosis, for example.
right.
Yeah, the true knowledge is that hidden knowledge it's all biblical, it's Torah stuff. Being a follower, having that kind of knowledge and wisdom, of course.
Mhm. This is verse 100.
Reuben, he has 7 verses.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Fucking Lawrence. I understand more than the ancients because I keep thy precepts.
Yeah.
Well, so like
Super arrogant.
it's a culture where elders are venerated.
Yeah.
Presumably, the ancients would be further venerated than the elders.
Sure. Oh, that's really interesting.
So that is a very arrogant statement.
What's interesting is yours says ancients.
Mm.
Mine says elders. And
What?
Yes, altars says elders, and there's no note on it. So that's really interesting because that would be really helpful if we knew the proper translation for that.
Yeah. I'm going to assume they mean elders.
Yeah.
But usually elders is like, it's a defined group.
Yeah, yeah. But although I don't know if, that could be they could have another meaning as well.
Maybe. Oh, okay. I have refrained my feet from every evil way that I might keep thy word. I have not departed from thy judgments, for thou hast taught me. How sweet are thy words unto my taste, yea, sweeter than honey to my mouth. Through thy precepts I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false way.
So that's kind of a he's strictly talking about his enemies, right?
Mm.
Yes, thank you. Strictly talking about his enemies, right? So now we have even more verification that the enemies are those who do not follow the law, the correct way, the correct path.
Yeah. None. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. I have sworn and I will perform it, that I will keep thy righteous judgments. I am afflicted very much. Quicken me, O Lord, according unto thy word. Accept, I beseech thee, the free will offerings of my mouth, O Lord, and teach me thy judgments. My soul is continually in my hand, yet do I not forget thy law. The wicked have laid a snare for me, yet I erred not from thy precepts. Thy testimonies have I taken as a heritage forever, for they are the rejoicing of my heart. I have inclined mine heart to perform thy statutes as always, even unto the end.
So, of course, unto the end there is translated in altars as without fail, but we already commented on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Do you hear something?
You know,
Can we even?
I think I do hear something.
Yeah, I hear something.
This has never happened before. This is absolutely unprecedented.
Absolutely unprecedented after 112 verses.
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Jesus Christ.
Wow, thank you, Jesus.
You're a great guy.
Great. Well, Jesus is just all right with me.
You know, he came in here to give you support.
Yes.
And he also came in here to tell everyone in the audience that you should drop a like and share the stream.
Yeah,
and if
you
you're
should.
watching, you can join the chat because it's a lot of fun in there. Look at all those people having fun in there.
All of them.
It's so fun.
Yeah,
It's like a playground.
except social distancing.
It's like a social distancing playground.
Yeah.
Or any age group over 18, probably.
Yep. Samak, I hate vain thoughts, but thy law do I love. Thou art my hiding place and my shield. I hope in thy word. Depart from me, ye evildoers, for I will keep the commandments of my God. Oh no, all of our viewers. Uphold me according unto thy word, that I may live, and let me not be ashamed of my hope. Hold thou me up, and I shall be safe, and I will have respect unto thy statutes continually. Thou hast trodden down all them that err from thy statutes, for their deceit is falsehood. Thou puttest away all the wicked of the earth like dross. Therefore I love thy testimonies. My flesh trembleth for fear of thee, and I am afraid of thy judgments.
So afraid there should probably be awe, in awe of your judgments.
What is a flesh like dross?
I have no idea what
I wanna
dross
know.
even is.
The wicked of the earth like dross.
Like dross, you destroy all the earth's wicked.
What is dross?
I have no idea.
I've used the word, and I feel like
You use a word without knowing what it means?
as a name. I gave it as a name. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know, I didn't think.
It meant
didn't
something.
Fucking no. I didn't.
Although the note here, oh, there is a note. Like dross, you destroy. So the Hebrew simply says, dross, you destroy. Some scholars amend.
Something regarded as worthless, rubbish, foreign matter, dregs, or mineral waste. In particular, scum formed on the surface of molten metal.
Huh. Now we
Oh.
know.
If I was a blacksmith, that would have come up.
Huh.
I haven't done that yet. I got to get on that.
On that.
The Hebrew says simply, dross, you destroy. Some scholars amend hishbata, you destroyed, to hashavat. Yeah. Hashavta, you considered.
Mhm.
So that's the only note on that. But I really actually liked this this stanza because it had that contrast in each verse between the good and the wicked. So a note here from Witherington, the 15th stanza talks more about the threat to the psalmist from double-minded wicked people. Double-minded seems to mean someone who appears to be following God's way, but really isn't. Perhaps someone who is skeptical or has doubts. In any case, the psalmist needs help to fend off such people, which, I mean, I find that last part amusing. But what I was reminded of is our discussion of what it meant to be foolish. Remember when we were reading the section on, only the fool has said in his heart there is no God, that whole thing, which happens twice, by the way. I forget the Psalms, but one of them is Psalm 14, I think. So the whole discussion on that, and in that series of Psalms, the wicked could definitely be better described as the ones who say they are following the law, but not really following the law. Like, they're only following it on occasion. They're like a casual
double-crossers.
Yeah, they're a casual law follower.
Man, I wish I knew which word she's talking about. Is it dross? Because it's right there on the screen.
Okay. Anyways.
She's asking. I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's apparently some scummy kind of thing.
She wants
it's waste.
to know how it's spelled?
Iron.
T-R-O-S-S.
Iron. I have done judgment and justice. Leave me not to mine oppressors, but surety for thy servant for good. Let not the proud oppress me. Mine eyes fail for thy salvation and for the word of thy righteousness. Deal with thy servant according unto thy mercy, and teach me thy statutes. I am thy servant. Give me understanding that I may know thy testimonies. It is time for thee, Lord, to work, for they have made void thy law.
So it's interesting that there is now an invocation here. So the note that he has, the first clause might also be constructed as, it is time for the Lord to act. This entire verse became proverbial in Hebrew, although understandings of what it meant varied. One common, if quite unlikely construction, in a time of emergency, when one must act for the Lord, it is permissible to abrogate the Torah. That's a weird one. Yeah, I definitely don't see that one being accurate, because especially with how this entire psalm is going.
Yeah.
And how in the previous stanzas we were told that you should always follow it.
We have a continual request throughout the entire psalm that God teach his statutes.
I guess, or maybe I think give understanding would be better.
Right. It's like...
because I'm sure he knows the statutes, the psalmist.
He knows the statutes. Is he trying to get, additional laws through, divine intervention?
Or just the proper ways? Because he knows the laws, but if he's not following them properly, he doesn't know the laws.
Right, so he's asking God for better interpretation, is my guess.
Yeah, that's what
and that, what you mentioned... Things age, laws, and they fall out of favor. Horses in Kentucky, etc. So he's asking, well, how do I interpret this grapes law when there aren't any grapes anymore?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. Therefore, I love thy commandments above gold, yea, above fine gold. Therefore...
Well, not above silver anymore.
When I read that, I thought of Russ Feingold.
Ugh.
Therefore I esteem all thy precepts concerning all things to be right, and I hate every false way.
So I walked in a straight line. That's the Hebrew. The Hebrew text, which may be doubtful at this point, says literally, therefore your ordinances of all I made straight. So I'm guessing he followed them. Then he hates those who don't.
Yeah. Hey, thy testimonies are wonderful. Therefore doth my soul keep them. The entrance of thy words giveth light. It giveth understanding unto the simple. I opened my mouth and panted, for I longed for thy commandments. Look thou upon me and be merciful unto me, as thou used to do unto those that love thy name. Order my steps in thy word, and let not any iniquity have dominion over me. Deliver me from the oppression of man, so will I keep thy precepts. Make thy face to shine upon thy servant, and teach me thy statutes. Rivers of waters run down mine eyes, because they keep not thy law. Thanks, Chris.
So on the last verse here, streams of water my eyes have shed, because men did not observe your teaching. And on that last section, the Hebrew says only they, but men is introduced here to avoid the possibility that the plural pronoun might refer to eyes or even the streams of water. Okay. Neat.
You keep talking about all this staying hydrated in your reading as well, so it's good to have another drink, especially with all the Reuben reading. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Today's are too long.
Verse 137.
How many are there?
There's
176.
Well, now, chunked away at it.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Sadi. Righteous art thou, O Lord, and upright are thy judgments. Thy testimonies that thou hast commanded are righteous and very faithful. My zeal hath consumed me, because mine enemies have forgotten thy words. Thy word is very pure, therefore thy servant loveth it. I am small and despised, yet do not I forget thy precepts. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Trouble and anguish have taken hold on me, yet thy commandments are my delights. The righteousness of thy testimonies is everlasting. Give me understanding, and I shall live.
Yeah, once again, there is that call to help the psalmist live, give him life.
Because, of course, if you're dead, you can't offer praise to God.
I don't know. What are they doing in heaven according to the other books, like the Book of Enoch?
It's not heaven.
No, but
and
they
it's
heaven.
also
There's
even
no
in
heaven.
Sheol.
this is also, I mean, Sheol is definitely still a concept
He just
here, but-
offered praise eternally there.
Yeah, but the whole issue is you're talking about two different timelines.
I got you.
Yeah.
I'm messing with
Right.
you. It's a joke.
Anyway. Cough. I cried with my whole heart. Hear me, O Lord, I will keep thy statutes. I cried unto me, save me, and I shall keep thy testimonies. I prevented the dawning of the morning and cried. I hoped in thy word.
So, some weird stuff here. That was verse 147 that you just read, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I greeted the dawn and cried out, for your word did I hope. And on the word greeted, the Hebrew verb here, kedem, and also in verse 148 can equally mean to anticipate or to go before. Hence, the King James Version renders it as prevent, using that English verb with precisely this meaning, which is now obsolete.
All right. Mine eyes prevent the night watches, that I might meditate in thy word. Same thing, I assume.
The night watches, this verse and the preceding one present us in reverse chronological order the picture of a supplicant who spends the whole night in a prayer vigil that lasts until daybreak.
Which some in the not the Tanakh, the Talmud. There's some parts of the Talmud where they suggest that you do that.
It's quite a lot, and he's also suggested it, before here, and how often he's going to do it.
Yeah, which it's a lot.
It is.
It's too much. Hear my voice according unto thy loving kindness. O Lord, quicken me according to thy judgment. They draw nigh that follow after mischief. They are far from thy law. Thou art near, O Lord, and all thy commandments are truth. Concerning thy testimonies, I have known of old that thou hast founded them forever.
Yeah, so from the very, even though he even though he has acknowledged that he was an apostate for a time, he's now acting like he hasn't been.
Right.
With that
He's
last
like,
verse there.
Oh, even way back then, I knew that all these commandments were forever.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
And there is actually a note on this. The implicit idea is that God's precepts are built into the very order of creation. Sure, because you have fixed them forever. Rabbinic Judaism would develop out of such hints the concept of an eternal Torah that pre-existed creation. So that's really interesting. But I'm also kind of shocked that the psalmist would say that after all the other stuff that he said.
Yeah, it's out of place
Yeah.
at the very least. Last 3 letters. Resh. Consider mine affliction and deliver me, for I do not forget thy law. Plead my cause and deliver me. Quicken me according to thy word. Salvation is far from the wicked, for they seek not thy statutes. Great are thy tender mercies, O God. O Lord, not O God. Quicken me according to thy judgments. Many are my persecutors and mine enemies. Yet do I not decline from thy testimonies. I beheld the transgressors and was grieved because they kept not thy word. Consider how I love thy precepts. Quicken me, O Lord, according to thy loving kindness. Thy word is true from the beginning, and every one of thy righteous judgments endureth forever.
So, Alter's translation is the chief of your words is truth. Some understand this to mean the first of your words is truth. Let there be light.
Something like that.
I mean, obviously, this is, after the Torah has already achieved some importance. I'm going to talk a little bit about the dating right now. So exegetes are virtually unanimous in their belief that Psalm 119 dates from the post-exilic period. The wisdom character of the psalm, the emphasis placed on the law, and the use of other books of the Old Testament, such as Deuteronomy, Proverbs, Job, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Isaiah 40 through 55, that's Deutero-Isaiah, would seem to indicate a post-exilic date for Psalm 119. In the pre-exilic period, the temple and the monarchy were the symbols of the Lord's presence with the people. When these symbols were destroyed during the exile, new symbols for God's presence had to be created. In the post-exilic period, the Torah became the supreme symbol of God's presence, which makes perfect sense.
All right. Yeah, it does. Shin. Princes have persecuted me without a cause, but my heart standeth in awe of thy word. I rejoice at thy word as one that findeth great spoil. I hate and abhor lying, but thy law do I love. 7 times a day do I praise thee, because of thy righteous judgments. Great peace have they which love thy laws, and nothing shall offend them. Lord, I have hoped for thy salvation, and done thy commandments. My soul hath kept thy testimonies, and I love them exceedingly. I have kept thy precepts and thy testimonies, for all my ways are before thee. So it's changed over time, because now at this point, they aren't asking to be given understanding of the law. They're not asking to be provided the law. They're saying that they have kept the precepts of the law, and it's been shifting to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Well, that's the end of the shin part.
Yes.
Anything to say?
I have nothing.
Okay. Last one. Tau. Let my cry come near before thee, O Lord.
So let my song of prayer come before you. These translations are so different.
Yeah.
These words, which initiate the last group of 8 lines, each beginning with the letter ta, mark the concluding segment as a formal coda in which the speaker asks in each of the 8 lines that God accept the prayer he has uttered in this psalm.
Mhm. Give me understanding according to thy word. Going back to
Yep, to that
initial.
understanding.
Let my supplication come before thee. Deliver me according to thy word. My lips shall utter praise when thou hast taught me thy statutes. Your lips have already been uttering praise, and also you already know the statutes.
Right, but now he's asking God to accept it.
My tongue shall speak of thy word, for all thy commandments are righteousness. Let thine hand help me, for I have chosen thy precepts. I have longed for thy salvation, O Lord, and thy law is my delight. Let my soul live, and it shall praise thee, and let thy judgments help me. I have gone astray like a lost sheep. Seek thy servant, for I do not forget thy commandments. You know, I have longed for the end of this poem.
And it's finally here.
Its end is my delight. That's the end.
Of that psalm.
Yep.
That was a very long psalm. Thank you, Ruben.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Now enjoy your 7-verse, little nursery rhyme that you get to do.
I will. But before
Humpty Dumpty.
But before we get into that, I do have some concluding things to say about this psalm. So from Witherington, this psalm allows no piety that takes the form of legalism. So that's just, strict following the rules, nor any that takes form of fideism. Fideism, I don't know. It involves a living relationship with God that calls for both trusting and obeying. In the words of Anselm, it involves faith, seeking understanding, so that obedience and wise living is possible. So, the whole time we're talking about that true understanding, not just, seeing the law and following it.
Yeah, your gnosis.
Yeah. And well, it's not really gnosis, but it's pretty close, yeah. When Psalm 119 is read in its entirety, it is striking that phrases and expressions from the remainder of the Psalter, Deuteronomy, Proverbs, and the prophetic writings, have been taken up and used to create a new text. The poet also combines a variety of genres, especially the individual lament and wisdom literature, to create a unique text, which we could call a prayer of dedication. Psalm 119 expresses dedication to the Torah and therefore also to God, the giver of the Torah, because as we discussed before, it was the new presence of God, after the destruction of the temple and stuff. The poet uses the length of the psalm, its comprehensiveness, and its numerous repetitions to persuade the reader or listener to dedicate himself or herself fully to the Lord.
Well, I'm not persuaded. But the word in the acrostic is not a word. It's just the alphabet.
Yeah, it's the entire alphabet.
Yeah.
Kind of like the word of God or the word of somebody else. You got to take them on their word, not an actual word.
Well, okay. It's an alphabet. Anyways, how about we hop into this final psalm of the day, Psalm 120. There should be a section right at the bottom that I have noted there.
It says Psalm 120 through 134 form a collection in the sense that all these psalms, with small variation in the case of Psalm 121, verse 1, have a song of ascents, Hebrew, Shir Hama'alot, as the title. One of the unanswered questions regarding the Song of Ascents is whether there is a relationship between these psalms, and if so, what is the nature that relationship might be? Another related question concerns the meaning of the title Hama'alot. There is no certainty as to the meaning of the title Song of Ascents. Essentially, there's a number of possibilities. But
I think there should be a note in Alter's version.
yeah,
too,
there's
right?
probably a note here. This is the first in a sequence of 15 psalms that bear this heading. Most scholars assume that ascents refers to pilgrimages to Jerusalem. The verb ascend or go up is the technical term used for pilgrimage. But among other meanings that have been proposed, it could be a musical term, perhaps referring to an ascent in pitch or a crescendo in the song, or it could refer to the pattern of incremental repetition that is common to many of these poems. There are some linguistic indications that these psalms were composed in the Second Temple period, and one of them, Psalm 126, explicitly invokes the return to Zion.
So it'd fall right into the whole Ezra and Nehemiah thing.
He's got some. Chill out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's so slow with his drinks. I'm not worried.
Anyways, Psalm 120, shall we?
Mhm.
A song of ascents. In my distress, I called to the Lord, and he answered me.
So these words are a formula for the Thanksgiving psalm.
Ah, great. Deliver me, O Lord, from lying lips, from a deceitful tongue. What shall be given to you, and what more shall be done to you, you deceitful tongue? Is there a note on that? Or a different translation? Verse 3? Because that was really
Yeah.
weird.
What can it give you? What can it add? A tongue of deceit.
Ah, okay. Okay, so yeah, tongue of deceit is useful. Useless.
Yeah.
A warrior's sharp arrows with glowing coals of the broom tree. What?
So this is the enemy's punishment, which is described in military terminology.
Okay, so a warrior's sharp arrows and glowing coals of the broom tree?
Yeah, at first glance,
Torch? I don't know. That's like an
with
analogy.
broomwood coals, it says. At first glance, this line may seem to be a leap without transition, but in Psalms, malicious speech is characteristically represented as a sharp arrow or sword. Broomwood was known to burn hot for a long time, even when the surface of the coals had turned to ash. So the image of intense burning complements the image of piercing arrows.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
My God.
Yeah.
Don't make broomwood arrows and light them on fire, guys. They will burn that guy for like a week inside. Oh,
Thank you so much, Alter, for explaining that.
yeah, it was pretty confusing till then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woe to me that I sojourn in Meshech, that I dwell among the tents of Kedar.
So, we do not know to what or whom the names Meshech or Kedar refer. It would be best not to interpret the names literally, but to regard them as general names representative of hostile nations. Alter says, these are two far-flung locations. Meshech is to the extreme northwest in Asia Minor, between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. It is mentioned in the Table of Nations in Genesis 10:2. Kedar is to the southeast in the Arabian Peninsula. One might wonder about the history of peregrinations of the speaker, but because it seems unlikely that a single person would have sojourned in both these places, it may be plausible to understand them as metaphors for living among people who behave like strangers, even if those people were within a stone's throw of Jerusalem. As someone today might say, I felt as though I were living in Siberia or Timbuktu.
I've never heard anyone say either of those things.
No, neither have I.
I swear, I've heard no one ever say that. Yeah.
I can see one of those memes like, no one, absolutely no one. Alter. It's like people saying they ought to live in Timbuktu or Siberia.
Yeah.
So anyways, So I had an idea about that, though, these two places. So if they're so far apart, right, and this is part of the Songs of Ascent, it could mean two things, where, these people in distant nations are not followers and they have these deceitful tongues, but also, in metaphorical terms, you're describing how far away you are from the temple. And if we're talking about ascension being a pilgrimage to the temple, then it would make sense. Because if we keep reading here, too long have I had my dwelling among those who hate peace. I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war. So either he is actually living in these places, or he's metaphorically talking about it as, just there. He's just so far away from the temple that everyone has lying lips and attacks him for it.
This last line here, I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war. The Hebrew appears to say, I am peace. But without amending the text, the most plausible way to understand these two words, ani shalom, is that they function as though they were an elided for. In the Hebrew, not a word, but the particle le.
So maybe I am peaceful?
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's meant to put a contrast between the images of the poem, right? With the coals and everything, but it's peaceful.
So, either way, that is the end of Psalm 120, and that is the end of the show today.
Wow, you did so much work there, Lawrence.
I did so much work. Oh, my God, I'm exhausted.
Give me a Magic the Gathering card. A Magic the Gathering brand Magic the Gathering card.
So, either way, that's the end of the show for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will be starting Second Maccabees on Friday. Yep. So that's
halfway.
About halfway. Yep.
Just about halfway.
Well, that's at least about halfway. So, that was loud. If you haven't dropped a like, make sure to do that.
Oh, thank you, Justin McClure. We're getting really close to hitting that 666
You're just chipping
goal.
at it, man. It's so
Just
close.
chipping at it.
Thank you, though.
Thank you so much, Justin, for the $2.
It's hilarious since, he's the only one contributing, but
It's chipping away,
It's a good number, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll take what we could get anywhere,
Absolutely, thank
from
you.
anyone. But the number is just going down a little bit at a time.
Yes, it is.
Wait till I get my Trump. Yep, Trump bucks, they're coming.
So
What are you going to do with your Trump bucks?
I don't know. Buy some books, probably.
Could finally get some video games that I've been playing on.
I'll buy the. Oh, you know what? I'll buy the Communist Manifesto just to stick it to the man.
Oh,
Wow,
You'll just buy like 100 copies of the Communist Manifesto. Oh man,
Yeah, that's great.
it's a good one.
Yeah. Anyways, we are $12.11 away from doing alchemy.
Yes.
So for anyone interested in seeing us do alchemy, you can help us in the donation drive.
And if we turn stuff into gold, then you won't need Trump bucks because you can just make gold.
You can get gold.
Yeah, you can take a quarter and be like, hold on a second here. Come back with a gold coin.
Hell yeah. What else we got going on? We got Patreon, especially in these trying times. Patreon is very helpful.
Yeah.
So if you like what we do and want to support us, we have a Patreon. You can get some rewards.
Want to be on the show? If you want
Also,
to join
yes.
us for the Patreon hangout every month.
Oh my God. We forgot the wheel.
The wheel.
It's a new month.
It's a new month.
It's a new month.
We got to spin the wheel.
Spin the wheel.
I can't believe we didn't spin the wheel.
We forgot about the wheel.
I can get it ready. Hold on, guys.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Hand
We're
that up.
going to spin the wheel.
All you people watching right now, I mean, I guess you're going to see who
that's
wins.
not that.
Yeah.
Oh, man, what are you doing?
I need
Wait,
to go to
we
what?
Streamlabs.
Oh, here we go.
So yeah, we got to spin the wheel, and someone's gonna get a shirt.
Yeah.
Here is the wheel.
I hope they are excited
I don't
for the shirt.
Click
Click log in.
This looks totally different now.
It does look kind of different. Yes, correct. YouTube.
I know how to get there,
You're
man.
doing it. You gotta log
You got
in
this, man.
as-
I've done this a bunch.
You do okay.
Usually we have it procced before the show.
We usually do, yeah.
So
Usually, but
that's our bad.
Okay.
But there is the wheel on the screen, and now, with a long period of wait,
Yes.
we're spinning
That
It's being
wheel.
spun.
spin.
It's landing.
It's Landon.
Landon.
All right, we got to make a new shirt for Landon.
Yeah, we gotta make a new shirt.
How about that idea with the, written by some Jews?
We
Brought to you
do.
by some Jews.
We
Yes.
have a lot of shirt ideas.
We do have a lot of shirt ideas. I have them written somewhere. I'll pull them up.
All right.
Actually,
We're
hold
like
on.
6
Maybe
now.
people can tell us what they think.
We
So
should do a poll.
we could do a poll. Let's see. Oh, we still have to do the peculiar ostrich one. There's a Mountain Strong. The horse is a lie. I don't even remember where that came from. And the Green Bay trees.
If anyone remembers what those references were to, thanks.
I remember the peculiar ostrich.
Okay, that's it though.
Yeah. Either way, we'll do something. We'll come up with a nice shirt for
Green
Landon.
Bay trees.
Yeah.
I didn't think that up.
Well,
No way.
one of us did.
I thought it was me. It sounds that dumb. I come up with the range of dumbest ideas.
Anyways, we'll come up with some shirts. They're going to be up on the Teespring. So if you want a shirt, you can just go on the Teespring and get yourself a shirt. The link is in the description. I think Nightbot has been posting it in the chat.
And if you want to buy us presents that get used on the show,
We will use it on the show. We will use it in videos. A whole bunch of books.
like this book right here that we'll be using on Friday.
Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff came from the wish list
Yeah.
on this table. So it's fantastic. I mean, the Altars commentary, the Hermenia translations. I think some commentaries over there.
Yeah.
So if you want to help us out, we do have a wish list. Link is in the description below. That's all the real shilling, but also Facebook and Twitter. It's free to follow us on those. Facebook page, Milwaukee Atheists, and Twitter page at MKE Atheists.
Yep. And with that being said, we will see
you on Friday, but it says Sunday.
Why hasn't that been fixed?